What are the regulatory and safety challenges of applying alternative proteins in feed products? Some answers from the NextGenProteins project funded by the European Union in the frame of Horizon 2020. So which regulation and safety assessments are applying to alternative proteins? So what are the challenges for microalgae proteins?
That you have hundreds of thousands of different algae strains, while on the GRAS list you can find maybe 5. One of the recommendations would be to get a fast-track regulatory framework that you could look into additional algae strain and enrich the portfolio of algae that might be serving as a source for protein. Although some algae strains have about 70% protein in them, you might still want to extract the proteins or extract another product from that algae. And the extraction process might bring additional regulatory challenges. Although some of the extractions are using GRAS solvents, for instance, water, ethanol, or supercritical CO2.
And what are the challenges for single-cell proteins?
The regulatory and safety challenges of single-cell proteins as food are as varied as the products within this category. Single-cell proteins encompass proteins derived from, for example, bacteria, fungi, or yeast. Depending on the microorganism, the regulatory path may be straightforward, as there may be a qualified presumption of safety. Other times, the path may be more complex. As an example, many yeasts such as brewer's yeast, baker's yeast, or Torilla yeast have a long history of safe consumption in Europe. In some instances, industrial production of yeast dates back 100 years. Due to this extensive record of safe consumption, the regulatory and safety challenges are minimal. Other sources of SCP may require more extensive evaluations to gather toxicological data and establish safe consumption levels, among other critical data. In these cases, the data requirements for a novel SCP may be extensive and the path towards commercialization lengthy.
And what are the challenges for insect proteins?
The use of insects in feed is currently authorized for pet food and since 2017 for aquaculture animals. Insects are farmed animals and must be part of a list of authorized species. The black soldier fly, or Hermesia illucens, is one of the 7 species authorized by European Regulation 893 from July 2017. The raw materials and substrates used as insect feed must contain only non-animal products. For the time being, former foodstuff containing meat, fish, as well as food losses originating from restaurant or catering are forbidden. In most of the cases, insect proteins are used under the form of processed animal proteins derived from insects, known as PAPs. Especially, all insects manufacturers should apply one of the 7 particular processing methods in line with European requirements. Basically, insects production does not present any particular sanitary risk. According to European Food Safety Authorities, or EFSA, sanitary hazards are expected to be comparable to any other sources of protein of animal origin. The marketing of insects PAPs is regulated too, with, for example, strict obligations on packaging and labeling. Finally, the insect industry, represented by the International Platform for Insects for Food and Feed, or IPIF, is working hard on certain regulatory challenges as enlarging authorized substrate, the use of insect PAPs in the poultry and the pig feed, as well as the possibility of using insects in organic farming.
So, how challenging is it to use alternative proteins in feed? Elements such as consumer health, traceability and labeling, high consumer acceptance, organic certificate, and guidelines of retail operators have to be considered.